Hello there, Joel here, the manager of the Newcastle Wands. Welcome to episode 16 of the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update. We're going to have a quick look at season 31, check the result and see how we're going after a week and a bit. We'll have a quick discussion about upgrades, some questions I had around the upgrade system, and then we'll have a look at some tangents at the end of the episode. As we do, we're going to jump right into it. Before we get too far into the results, Andre and I, and this is going to be a tangent, this is point 3 before point 1. Andre and I were having a discussion about maybe a bingo card, a Quidditch Manager Weekly Update bingo card. The idea being there'd be 5x5 squares on there. We'd have all the stupid things that I mentioned or say by accident or whatever little quirks there are in the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update, and you stamp it, and it'd just be a nice little card that you could play along with the episodes while you're playing the bingo. I'm sure by now I've already clicked 2 or 3 of the items off already on the ideas we had. So leave some suggestions for what you think would be good for a bingo card, because I actually ran out of ideas after all the obvious ones. I didn't know what else to put, so put some things below. All the obvious ones are probably going to be too easy to get, so maybe I've got to make them harder so that you don't get bingo straight away. But anyway, never mind. We're going to have a look at the results. Actually, before we get to results, I was having a little... At the end of Season 30, I disabled the scores on... Like in the strategy page, you can disable the scores so you don't spoil the result for yourself in a match. You can see here, the green still shows up, so you can still see the winners. The green and the red still shows up. So it still spoils it to some extent on the overview page here. If you go to the league page, it doesn't show the green and the red, but it also doesn't disable the score, so you're still spoiling yourself. The reason I was doing that was because I wanted to try and have a look at the end of Season 30 to see if the Corgis or the Ashwinders would win the overall competition, and I wanted to get to the match report, not spoil it for myself, go through the match report, and then be excited as the scores went up and down, and it was the snitch range and all that kind of stuff. It didn't happen. In the Gold League, the Jersey Jumbucks are winning. Well, that's nice. 2 or 3 days ago, the Morley Moors were winning. They had 2 losses, and the Jumbucks had... It was a 1 loss, and the Jumbucks had 2 losses. But whatever it was, I was one win behind. So that's a nice little change of events. We're at match day 11, so we're a week and a half in. Interesting that the Jumbucks are on top. Maybe the first half of the week is the hard half for the Moors, and then by the end of this week we'll have a bit of a better idea. Going to the Honour League, this is incredibly close. This is ridiculously close. I'm actually going to have a look at... So the bottom of the table here, the Newcastle Watt, they've still won 3, even though they've lost 17. You would expect that if there's a team that is totally out of the running, like no chance at all. For example, the Phoenixes, the Wands, the Diggers of times gone past, you've got 0 wins. You just absolutely have no chance. 0-60 is what you get. So the Watt, at least, they're beating someone. And even these other 3 teams, or 3 or 4 teams here, the Axolotls, Kiddyminters and Knoxlow, 7 wins each. And then the Bangtails, Bashone and the Flutterby, 8 wins each. That's still pretty close. There's no Honour League team, at least I can see there, apart from maybe the Watt. But there's no Honour League team that are so totally outclassed at the moment. An interesting stat. It is interesting to me. We're going to have a look at the top here. The Ashwinders, the Mifflins, and the Dragon Riders. A bit of a surprise to me there. The Dragon Riders don't have a logo. Therefore, shouldn't be on top of the table. But then the Legionnaires also have no logo. That could be the reason why they're always just outside the top there. Equal at the top there. Corgis and the Catchers, big teams, big clubs, 13 and 7. That's very close. The Legionnaires, of course, are still in there. The Cardiff Corgis, well done on being in the mix there as well. And the Dursleys. So the top 8 there is within 3 wins of each other. That's pretty cool. That's what we wanted to see with Honour League for a long time. There was a while where Honour League was a few teams who were like active managers and they would win. And the teams without the active managers, well, they'd fade away. You look at this table here and that's close. That's very close. And that is... It means that the majority of the managers are active. They're doing their best to get their team to the highest level, optimising all their little strategies. And that's going to be close. It's going to be close. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that for the end of the season. What I'm going to do here... Hello, Andre. I am doing a Qmwu. This is me exploiting the feedback system. We'll see how that goes. That's our results. So yeah, season 31, it's I don't want to say it's a funny season, but season 31 is before season 32, and season 32 should be a World Cup. So what our managers are looking at doing at the moment is getting their players to a point where they're going to be competitive for the World Cup. It's a bit of a shame there's not a dynamic form line for players. I know, like for example, with the cricket, the World Cup's on at the moment for the cricket, and there are some players in the Australian team that are firing in the World Cup, and they almost weren't in the squad even, let alone the main 11, the top team, because their form wasn't that good in the lead up tournaments or lead up tri series. Glenn Maxwell being an example, got his first century in a one day yesterday. He has scored a lot of runs in this World Cup. He's a very aggressive, high risk, high reward batsman. But 2 or 3 months ago, like the Australian summer, he was not. He was going to get dropped. He was only on the side because batsmen were injured. And I guess Quidditch Manager doesn't have a form line like that, where you want to build your players up and have the slow improvement coming into the World Cup. Now, maybe when fouls, injuries, and suspensions becomes a thing, that will be more important, because you will have players that you don't want to burn at the start of the season or the start of the campaign. You want them. You need to pace them. You need to make them play every couple of matches and then take a rest so they don't get fatigued. They don't get lower the chance of injury. And that way, when you do get to the World Cup or you do get to your final series or whatever important point of the season you're at, they'll be there. They'll be there. You'll have your best 7 on the park at the time. So I started this point with I wish there was a dynamic form statistic, but now I'm thinking the fouls, injuries, and suspensions will probably alleviate some of that. I think it'd be a very interesting addition, though. It'd change the meta a lot if instead of putting all 7 players in every week, you've got to choose when to put them in, because you need to maximise them at the end of the season when it matters. You need them there at the end. So you'd have your squad, you'd be playing enough players to get you through the early stages, the knockout phases for the World Cup, for example. And as we know, the World Cup is randomised, it's not seeded. So you could be playing an Honour League team, you could be playing a Gold League team quite early on in the campaign. So you put your good team in there, and then as you go through the rest, and you might be playing some lower division competition, you can play some other players, rest the star players, get them there at the end of the season. I think that would be very cool. Just makes things more strategic. We know that managers that are invested, emotionally invested in the game and active, are the more popular ones, or not popular ones, the more successful ones. And this would be another way to make those managers successful as well. Next point, upgrade discussion. Yes, I was going to talk about the upgrades. Now, what was I going to say about the upgrades? I think the idea with the upgrade discussion was, I put forth the question to Andre. Might have been a week and a half ago. The main question was, and actually I did mention this on the forum. So the idea was, how quickly can players get to 99s in certain skills? And I was going to follow this up on the forums, and I'm sorry that I didn't, but I have no excuse. I apologise. The idea was, how quickly can a player get to 3 99s or 4 99s in their really good stats? And this was a follow-on from the youth players that we all saw last week. So we all, at least everyone that invested in the youth academy or the new academy, that's probably a bingo card. The youth/new academy, getting that wrong, that's a B. The idea was that how quickly could you get a 15-year-old or an 18-year-old? How quickly would they get to 99s in their specific stats? And my question to Andre was, if you can get your important stats to 99 that quickly, what incentive is there to even invest in any further upgrades? If you can have a look at your upgrade sheet, let's go to the academy. If you have a look at your upgrades and you see plus 10% to a stat or plus 5% to a stat, and I didn't realise that the academies, like the blue guys down the side there, they offer pluses as well. Plus 5 training to all, plus 10 to accuracy and morale. So when I was doing my figures, I was only using the main colours here, the yellow guys and the red and the green, but the blues as well. They add stuff. The idea was, if you can get them to 99s anyway, the more you invest in upgrades, the more galleons you're wasting, because once you hit 99, you can't get higher. So any training after that point is effectively wasted. So my question was, is there value in even buying more upgrades if you can still get to 99s? If you get to 99s when they're 23, or when they're 25, or they're 27, would you pay the extra to get them there at 23 when you know that at 27 they'll be competitive anyway? So I guess the question was there, would a manager choose to not handicap themselves, but slow down their progression, be competitive really late in the career of the players, but save galleons, and they can use those galleons for something else. And then the follow-on question from that, I guess that scenario, that case study, if managers would choose to not buy all the upgrades because they'll get 99s anyway, what's the benefit for those that do get all the upgrades? And I think the answer that we came up with, the answer that Andre and I came up with, was that if your players are getting 99s in their main stats, so you've got agility and dexterity, I would say are the two main ones, and then you're looking at speed and balance and a few other things. Accuracy is very good for the beaters and the chasers. If you're getting 99s across the important stats, those that buy the extra upgrades are then looking to get 99s in the secondary stats. And that's the benefit there. That's the risk and the reward. Or not that it's risky, but that's the cost. The cost benefit analysis is probably a better way to put it. You're paying a lot more for upkeep. You're paying a lot more up front to get the extra upgrades, because you know that at some point in your career or the team's career, you're going to be up against teams with level 99s in the important stats, and the only difference between your player and their player is your secondary stats can be better than their secondary stats. At the moment, the way the Quidditch Manager is, that's the only way to really get an edge. You'll see with Mona Duffy, she's got 99s in the important stats. If she was zeros in the other ones, she'd be exactly the same as every other good beater that had 99s in agility, dexterity, accuracy, strength, that kind of stuff. She'd be no more important. The only difference is that she has really high stats in the secondary ones as well. And there's other 90s in there. That's the difference. That's the little 1%ers or the 5%ers. At some point in the future, when those traits come in, I imagine when you've got plus 5% to a certain stat or minus 5 to another one, those modifiers will make things a bit more specific, a bit more unique. But at the moment, buying the extra upgrades, or at least to me, buying the extra upgrades is about getting better secondary stats, because you can get your primary stats, your top tier stats, you can get them to 99 real quick, or you can get them there somewhat quick and save money and not buy the other upgrades. So you're really only spending money on those upgrades to get the higher secondary stats, as well as higher youth levels. So you'll see that some of these guys here, when they're increasing your youth level, I haven't got the locker rooms, the conference rooms, the restaurant, or the office. If we count that up, what's that? 2 for the locker rooms, 3 for the conference room, 2 more for the restaurant, and then 2 more for the office. So 2, 4, 6, 9. So that's 9 youth levels I'm potentially missing out on for the three youth recruits I'll get at the end of the season or the start of the next season. So if I invested in all those, and I'll probably invest in the conference room and the office this time, because the scouting is empty. So I'll save myself some cash that way. I will probably invest in those 2 at least to raise the level. But while I've got the dragon, it's very difficult to maintain the rest of these. The upkeep is it's phenomenal. It's very high. If I went to the Jumbucks page right now, you'd see I've got everything except the Spa and the 5-horned dragon. And I would probably get the Spa when fitness becomes a factor in future games. I'd still leave the Swagon. I think the Swagon is just too hard to fit under the salary cap. But I think this is the Swagon was probably the reason I was looking at this question in the first place. I was asking myself, why would I bother getting tier 2 of the academy or tier 3 of the academy if I'm already getting 99s in the skills? That's probably the line of thought I was thinking. I was how do I keep the dragon? Why would I bother getting rid of the dragon? Or why would I bother spending money on something else if I'm getting 99s anyway? I may as well keep the dragon. And then the conclusion we came to was that the second tier stats are the important ones. The second tier stats are the only difference really between your 2 players at the top. It's about finding the extra 1%ers, the 2%ers, the 5% that can somehow get you the edge. I'm still trying. I'm still putting forth the argument that morale has to somehow be used by a team that has fallen behind as a comeback mechanic, so that you can somehow stay in the game or just get back to snitch range. It doesn't have to pull the team further ahead, although in real life I'm sure there are players that once they get momentum and tempo, they're really good at snowballing and getting the game or getting their team ahead in the game. But I feel like morale has got to be used somehow in the game, and I feel like the comeback mechanic is a natural fit for it. I don't know how to get it up to the top of the priority list of Andre's. There's other more important things that he's looking at, and I just that's I feel like that's the future. Morale is the future. And for was it Stephen Holden, the guy that the Jumbucks picked up? He'd have very high morale. He'd be very good at that. I'm going to have a quick look. Actually, I was checking out the stats recently, and this was because of the question I was asking. We're going to have a quick look, for example, at the individual stats. We'll go to Honor League. Although, yeah, so you can see here, we're going to use speed as a quick example. In the Silver League, it's not maxed out, except for one guy. In Gold League, it's not at all. Okay, and in Honor League, there's only a couple. Now, the reason I want to point out speed, for example, speed's pretty important. Speed's pretty cool. And you can actually see the Corgis. The Corgis must be doing a training strategy that focuses on speed. If we go to agility, the top 10 are all fully trained out in agility. If you go to dexterity, it's going to be the same, I think. I hope so, yep. I don't want to be looking a fool. The balance is the same. So those three stats are they're pretty prevalent in a couple of the training strats. So it's no surprise that they pop up. Accuracy, again, prevalence. Very, very, like it's just important, and it's in a lot of strategies that don't have many wasted skills. So that's why you see it. You look at morale, no one bothers to train morale. So Beryl here, Beryl is, I guess, has the most belief. But it's wasted stats, and it's something that doesn't get focused on that often. You'll see here stamina. Kind of like speed, for example, where there's a couple that are fully maxed out. Mona shows up again. And again, that's why it's a tier 2 stat. That's the difference between those players that have maxed out agility, dexterity, accuracy. This is the difference between the really good players and then the next level of players, I would argue. I want to have a quick look at charisma as well. Yeah, so again, charisma and morale. Although the Kitty Minces look like they're focusing on some revenue there, I would suggest, by having that. Like, that's 5 of the top 10. 5 of the top 10 are quite charismatic. And this goes back to a few episodes ago where I mentioned that it'd be really cool if there was a sponsor that somehow activated different stats like that in interesting ways. So for the Kitty Minces there who invested so much in getting high charisma, I would assume to get higher ticket sales, it would be very neat if there was a way for that to translate to on-field performance as well. If there was some way to substitute their charisma for another skill. You probably wouldn't substitute it for agility or dexterity or the top tier ones because they're already maxed out. But if there was a way to sub it in, you could choose not to train dexterity, for example, because charisma's high and it makes up for it. Now, if you'd have to find a role-playing reason for it, if that floats your boat, a role-playing excuse for why charisma can also be dexterity. But I'll leave that to you guys. I'm not going to try and think of it on the spot here. Alertness as well. Alertness is my pet. I don't want to say pet peeve. It's the stat that I wish had more support. Is the long and the short of it. I wish there was a way to get alertness up more. And actually, Andre was showing me the coloured sliders the other day, and I think the coloured sliders is going to be the way to somehow get alertness in. I know it's important for keepers. Like, it's got to be important for keepers. So I would like to be able to train my keeper up specifically with alertness. I assume it's good for a seeker as well. Actually, is there a way to sort this out so we can? Okay, the sentence I was going to finish there. Is there a way to sort out these players here? Go back to Honor League. Is there a way to sort out these players here into keeper and seeker, and then chaser and beater? Because I would be very interested to see if there's any seekers with high alertness. And if there is, how useful it is or how successful they are. But I'm not going to click on all of these guys because that would take a long time. I'm going to have a look at the Kitty Minces here though. What have we got here? The Kitty Minces, that's a chaser. Well, that's blown my theory out of the water. That blue hair though. That blue hair. Is it Syndicate? Pro Syndicate? There's a guy on YouTube that has the blue hair. He plays the Minecraft and also lots of other things. But he's very charismatic. He's very cool. The blue haired dude. Okay, apparently the top two alertness players are chasers. So I guess it's somehow important, the top 3. This is not working well for me at all. I'm going to find a seeker. I'm going to find a seeker. That's a beater. This doesn't make sense. Here's my thinking. What are the training strategies that help a beater and a seeker that also have alertness in them? There must be one. There must be one. Okay, no, wait a minute. This proves my point. This does prove my point. Hear me out. This proves my point because managers are choosing the training strategies that give the biggest benefit to their chasers and their beaters. And a knock-on effect of that is that alertness is high in that particular training strat. But there is no training strategy that suits the seekers and the keepers, and that is what I want in the game. I want something with high alertness that is tailored towards the keeper and the seeker and bugger the chasers and the beaters. So even though I've just looked at the top 5 of the Honor League and found no seekers and no keepers with high alertness, I'm going to claim that as proving my point. That there needs to be a more specific training strategy for those two positions because the chasers and the beaters have it all already. And I mean, if I was to go to the Jumbucks again and use them as an example, I bought 7 Australian players for the Jumbucks, all at roughly the same time. And the keeper is well and truly behind on the other positions stat-wise because, well, I guess somehow in the match reports, the events that they complete, maybe keepers don't do as many or they don't complete as many, whatever it is that affects the match experience for the keepers, it's not quite there. And I guess you don't train the things that are as important to the keeper either, to get them to, I guess, to max out the skills that they require. We're going to leave it for the upgrades now, I think. That's fine. I've just had a look at my OBS here as well. Warning. High CPU usage. So if this video's been jumping about, that's why. And that's probably another bingo card. I wanted to have a talk about tangents as well. I just want to quickly check anything on the forums as well. Ooh, I remember something on the forums. I've got to find it now. The Pitchside Tavern, where all the tales of the season are told. There should be something in here for the results. Aha! There we go, results. The Golden Broom Awards. Initiative by Oric. Very cool initiative. Was you guys, you managers, all voted on who you thought were the best in each position, and then the best manager as well. I didn't vote. I left it to everyone else. I'm going to say that I didn't want to put in my opinion because I didn't want to skew the results, but quite frankly, I completely forgot over the weekend. So I apologise again. The results for the best chaser were a Winifred Hamilton of the Dragon Riders, who were at the top of the Honor League. Well done. Damon Quinn and Quintessa Reagan for best keeper. It'd be, I'm not going to check it now, but it'd be interesting to see if they have high alertness. We go to the category for the best seeker, and that was Gilbert Ross from the Mifflins. So we've got a nice spread of the best players across the clubs as well. And then Mona Duffy for the Ashwinders was the best beater. So that's cool. It is interesting that the best players weren't all on the same club. It just shows how close all the teams are at the moment, as evidenced by the results not halfway through, 11 days into season 31. And I don't know if you guys are biased or not, but you've all chosen, well, someone has chosen Cygnus as the best manager. So congratulations to Cygnus. I guess your bags of gold or galleons will be going to their rightful owners for bribes. So well done, guys. And hopefully Andre can introduce some more cool new things to the game as we go along. We're just getting to grips with how the academy and the upgrades are working at the moment. So I'm sure there's a few things going on in the background that Andre's trying to optimize and trying to fix bugs and all that kind of stuff. I don't know if I have any memory of where the sliders are, and I know I found it before in a previous Qmwu, so I'm gonna try and find it in here somewhere. Okay, that's not colourful, but we might find the colourful ones here. I feel like I'm getting close. There we go. Okay. So Andre was showing you guys how the sliders will work. This video is more, I guess, for someone who hasn't gone to the forums. Check it out. This is what I believe is going to be the future of the training regimes for Quidditch Manager. And the idea here is that with the current preset training routines, you've got, let's say 20 points. 20 is a nice round number because, if each point is worth 5%, you get 100%. So let's say 20 points. What you can see on the screen here is that 20 points will be divided up amongst the 10 skills. What Andre has decided is that you will have to do a minimum of 1 per skill, with a maximum of 6. But a minimum of 1, which means you've got 10 that you can customize. You can put 10 wherever you like. For this top one here, Release the Dragon, which is kind of a cool name. Release the Dragon is designed to increase your speed and agility. So what you would do here is you've got your minimum across 8 skills, and then agility and speed. Agility and speed gets maxed out at 6, and over time your players will be real zippy because they're doing the Release the Dragon training routine. The broom work one here, I don't know if this is exactly what the broom work is at the moment. The preset broom work is for the training routine. I haven't double checked it, but it wouldn't be too far off. I wouldn't expect. The broom work here is designed to increase your dexterity and agility. At a guess, I would say in the current preset, dexterity would be maybe 4 or 5. Agility might be up a bit higher. Accuracy is more the scoring and the passing. That was an odd noise in the corner there. But yeah, you can see here morale and charisma, dump stats, get rid of them. I'm sure balance would be higher for broom work. Actually, broom work and balance and speed would somehow be factored in, I'd imagine. And then what you would do is you'd be able to choose a training routine. I would hope at some point it gets to the point where you can do it either per individual or per position, or as I've mentioned before, at least having 2 per squad. So you've got the chasers and the beaters doing the same routine, and then the keeper and the seeker doing the same routine. One idea I had once upon a time, and this was more specifically an upgrade, kind of similar to the Quaffle launcher, was going to be a golf ball launcher, and with the golf ball launcher, it would shoot out, golden golf balls or something, and the seeker would chase them, and so that would be designed to increase their alertness. Funnily enough, their alertness, and then other things like their agility and their speed and all that kind of stuff. And I guess as we discussed in the last episode of Qmwu, the stamina, don't know how that comes into it, but for seekers, I need to sprint. So what I would suggest for that particular training regime is I would raise alertness quite high. And I would have agility, dexterity, speed, balance, and so strength wouldn't come into it. Strength wouldn't really make sense for it. Although I think what you would do if you wanted to use it for a beater to improve their strength. So imagine right, a beater / Jedi with his lightsaber / beater's back, and he stands in front of a launcher and just shoots things at him, right? And he's banging stuff. He's banging away at it. That would increase strength and stamina. That'd be really good for a beater because it would teach them to just bang stuff. It would get their alertness up as well because they've got to predict where the golf ball's going, and a few other things like that. I wouldn't have it do agility or dexterity because they would be static. For example, they might stay on their broom or they might stay on the ground, but you just point the golf ball launcher at them and you just shoot it and they've got to whack things. And so that would be designed to train those other ones. So alertness and the strength and the stamina. You might make them really heavy golf balls for the strength, but there's a few role-playing ways you could work around that. And I mean, if you can make your own names up, which it looks like you can, then you can have whatever role-playing regimes you'd like. Just to go back and explain why everything's a minimum of 1 as well. There was some conjecture about this on the forums, and when Andre explained this to me the first time, way back when, it was always going to be a minimum of 1. That's the way he always explained it to me, so I just assumed it was going to be like that. I never questioned it. His reasoning behind it is if you're doing any physical work, like any physical training, it's all going towards things like balance or speed or stamina. Like and any physical work you do is it's going to improve all those physical skills you've got there. It might not improve charisma, it might not improve morale, but if you think about it, you would be more confident if you've done more training and you're more confident in your skills, then you're going to be more confident in your game, which means your morale is going to be higher, your charisma is going to be higher because you're feeling better about yourself. So the idea is that any training you do is going to improve your skills anyway, and that's why it's a minimum of 1, and then you as the manager can then specify what the training is tailored towards in those particular skills. That was the way it was explained to me and the way that it works in my head from a role-playing perspective, and I hope you guys understand that now as well. That's the way that Andre wants it to be done, and so get on board. Get on board with that. We've hit the half-hour mark, so I'm not going to go too much into tangents. The main thing I wanted to talk about with tangents is that you may have noticed in this episode I'm feeling more relaxed. Inside, I'm feeling a lot more relaxed. There's been a few changes the last week or two. I've been going to, I guess, I don't want to call him a doctor, but I've been going to someone to talk about stuff. And 2 weeks ago was the last time I went. I went again this morning, but I went 2 weeks ago. And since then, I'll see if I can find it actually. They've got some drawings on here. Blythe has done a bit of writing on there as well. But the idea is that this is a little spreadsheet. It's a little spreadsheet that it's a self-monitoring device. So the idea of it is that if you start feeling bad or stressed, or you start picking up on body signs on you feeling bad and in the dumps, you write down the date and the time. You write the situation that happened. You write down the thoughts that were going through your head at the time. And usually for me, when I was having these feelings, the thoughts were all revolving around, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this to myself? Why isn't it working? Things like that. The positive Joel would say, what do I do to fix it? But the negative Joel, the one that's been getting stronger and stronger lately, is always like, well, why do I even bother trying to fix it? It's always going to go bad. So that was the self-monitoring. The feelings around it quite often: frustrated, angry, sad, all that kind of stuff, anxious. The body signs you write down. Usually for me, like stress can make you physically sick. So you'd write down if you were, I guess, short of breath, higher heart rate. Usually for me it was just a sick feeling in the stomach or headaches or clenching the jaw, just being real stressed and that kind of stuff. And then the behaviours is the last column. So I found that after talking to the guy 2 weeks ago, I did that for a week, and then I went to New Zealand, and I even had a case to write down while I was in New Zealand. It was more around. Like I just woke up the morning of the cricket and didn't want to get out of bed, and I was feeling pretty stroppy, and we went to the pub for breakfast, which was horrible. Buffet breakfasts don't work for me. I like bacon and I like eggs, but I sure don't want to have them from a buffet. I'll tell you that. Maybe it's not crispy enough bacon. I don't know. In the end, the New Zealand breakfast at the pub was just the fruits. I went to the corner and they probably bought a tin of apricots, a tin of pears, a tin of peaches, a tin of mixed fruit, and put them in like one in each bowl, and I just scooped most of them up and had them for breakfast. Anyway, that's a tangent. That morning I woke up feeling pretty bad, didn't want to do anything. It was mainly because we didn't really know what we were going to do or in what order we were going to do things that day, but I was feeling quite overwhelmed with all the options, or all the possibilities that Dad was giving me. In my mind, I was going to go to the cricket, and that was one thing. And there's only one stadium where we were staying, so it wasn't going to be that hard to find it. And I could just Google how far away it was, and it took 50 minutes to walk there. And I was already sad when I woke up, and then I was getting overwhelmed with further questions about what our schedule was going to be, and it just compounded on top of each other, and I couldn't deal with it. But ever since then, ever since coming back, ever since some things are changing with my job as well. Well, hopefully changing. I don't want to say too much yet, but hopefully things are going to be a lot less stressful in the future. I haven't felt the need to write any more of these self-monitoring things, and that's been really positive. I went to the guy this morning, and instead of talking about... we talked about the bad experiences to go over them, but there haven't been any for a week. So we're just talking about a few other things as well, and ways to go forward, ways for me to go forward, and less stressful. That's why I'm feeling more relaxed in general. And it's one of those funny things in life, I guess, is when life looks brighter again and looks happier again, and there's not just this dark cloud hanging over you all the time, and there's you can look around and there's all of a sudden really cool things. Sometimes things just start working out, and I don't know why I did this. No, I probably do know why I did this, actually, because I went to New Zealand. I went to Hobbiton, which is Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, and I delved in my boxes over here. This might be annoying, but I'm gonna show you the boxes in the corner. There's more stuff behind the brick wall as well, but I delved in there, and I found something from a hobby that I used to do back when I was young. I'm going to say when I was young, when I was 18. It's that long ago. It's over a decade ago. I'm turning 30 this year, and I found my little Lord of the Rings figurines. I'm gonna pop a couple up here, but I found my little Lord of the Rings figurines. So I went on YouTube to have a look at Lord of the Rings strategy battle game. It turns out it's been changed to the Hobbit strategy battle game. So it's had a rebranding because of the movies, and there's people online that make videos about. See if that focuses there or not. I'm not sure if this is going to work or not, but woo! Get back in front of the camera. Did he show up there at all? That's all right. So that's Legolas there. It's little minifigures like that. I used to do. It's like Warhammer basically. If you know what Warhammer is, there was a Lord of the Rings version. So I used to do that when I was 18. I think I was either still at school or I just finished school. So I might have been at uni at the time instead. But I had a look on YouTube, and there's guys that do battle reports. They do all this content around their hobby. So it's the Great British Hobbit League, and they just do videos almost every day of the week. It wasn't a particularly popular version of Warhammer. I know at the games shop that I went to, the hobby shop that I went to, I think we had 1 or 2 tournaments at the time that I was there, and I was the guy running them for a little while, or not so much running them, but the main player of them. Well, I wasn't the best player. I just happened to be the nicest guy that wanted to help other people play it. There was some guy that played elves, and he just stood at the back of the board and shot everything, because it worked, but it was real boring. But the point I'm trying to make is that it was really cool to see the difference between the hobby now to when I played it. Back when I played it, YouTube wasn't a thing, and what was it? So 10 or 12 years ago, when I was playing it, I never told people that I played it. I was never, not that I wasn't proud of it, but I didn't want to tell people because it was different. Even being a gamer back then was different. Being a guy who plays video games is not something I shouted from the rooftops either when I was 18. And that's part of being insecure and a teenager and that kind of stuff. But it's also like the world has changed, and that's what's interesting about looking back on it now is how different. Like these guys that are making these videos on the GBHL, yeah, on their channel, they obviously they're really enthusiastic about the hobby, and people watch it. There's enough people out there that watch it. They don't make money from it, but it's their hobby. It's their thing that they like doing, and they all do it together. Their community, and I really liked seeing it. I really liked seeing that there was a way to be passionate about something, put it on the internet, have other people enjoy it, and do things like that together. And I guess that's something that Andre and I wanted to do for Quidditch Manager to some extent. Although it's nowhere near as big as Warhammer or the Hobbit strategy battle game. There's not as many. I guess there's not as many strategies to play. There's not as many ways to win the game, or the paper scissors rock meta. There's nothing like that we can really discuss to that extent for Quidditch Manager just yet. We can go over new updates and new things that are coming out in the future. And I mean, the release schedule for The Hobbit would have been pretty slow over time, because they'd only have the 3 Lord of the Rings movies and the 3 Hobbit movies, where interest is high, and then the rest of the time would be pretty low. So it's not like they would be changing things week in, week out, or like Hearthstone, for example, where the meta changes every week, and Face Hunter. Well, Face Hunter's always good, but like a mid-range Paladin was really good when Goblins vs Gnomes came out, and then not that it died away, not that it got less effective, but since GVG has been played more often and more figured out, Oil Rogue has become a thing, which is like single-handedly killed the Paladin. Mech Mage has been very popular, although I think it's dying out a bit. The Hunter just won't die. The Hunter's always there. But the meta changes week in, week out. Because Hunter and Mage are a thing, Secrets are a thing, which means Kezan Mystics are now a thing as a counter meta. The reason I'm pointing all this out, not that it matters or means much to you guys, but it just goes to show that in a game that is very dynamic, that changes week in, week out, you can do a lot of content for it. For Quidditch Manager, because it doesn't change week in, week out, all we can really do is talk about the things that are happening, like results. Results is the thing we can talk about. We can maybe discuss strategy around the upgrade system, or around new things that are implemented, and see what see if managers have different opinions on what's the optimal strategy. This is why I keep going back to the paper, scissors, rock analogy though, because if there's an optimal strategy, and there always is, in a game, this is what the meta is in a nutshell. If there's an optimal strategy, the only way you can counter it is to either optimize the optimal strategy and find an extra 1% or an extra 2% or an extra 5%, some tweak to make it more efficient or more effective. You either optimize the optimal strategy, which becomes the optimal strategy, and then you try and optimize that and it just becomes this this chain, or you counter the strategy, so you get something completely different that counters the first strategy. And then the hope is that with paper, scissors, rock, when you counter one strategy, another counter comes along, which is then countered by the first strategy, and so all three strategies are now all relevant. It just depends on maybe what week you actually use the strategy, whether it's in or it's out. Like on trend, I guess is the fancy way to say it. That's what I'd like to see in Quidditch Manager. And it's a lot harder to do in Quidditch Manager because it's a long-term game, and you set up your pieces at the start so that by the end of the chess match you can just win. Like that's the idea behind it. So it's a lot harder to have counter strategies or to have dynamic strategies because there's not much changes. Once you've set the pieces in place, you just let it play out after that. If there was more changes, there'd be more things for us to talk about on these videos rather than me going off my tangents. It would give us more content to make, and that would be nice because I like making these videos. I like making these videos like the Hobbit guys like making their videos, and I would just love to make more and more of them. And have someone else do them with me as well. It'd be really cool. It would be really nice. It would just give us more to talk about. I mean, the bingo card on one hand is a funny thing, but on the other hand is indicative of the fact that I do go over the same ground every now and then because there's not much ground to go over. Like once I've talked about a topic, I've got to hope that you guys discuss another topic throughout the week that piques my interest, that has enough discussion points around it, and then I can discuss that in the next episode. And that's only going to keep happening if more managers are active and if there's more content being delivered into the game, or someone figures out a way to play the game differently so that it can win. Like it's playing the game. Like you could play Quidditch Manager in a very inefficient manner, and you could play it completely differently if you want to, but it's not going to win games for you, and therefore it's not going to I guess what's the purpose of playing the Quidditch Manager game if you're not doing it to win Quidditch Manager matches? What else are you doing? I guess that's a win condition for you personally, and we're at about 42 minutes, so I'm not going to go much further into it. But when I used to play board games, I used to play board games a lot with my friends, who have all buggered off overseas the last few years. But I used to play board games. Games like Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit are the board games that I guess the mainstream people know, but I don't find them the best board games or the best party games. They're Trivial Pursuit. If you don't know the answer, you can't play the game. It's as simple as that. There is, like, at least with other games where you roll dice, if you roll dice well, you don't need to know what you're doing or have a really good strategy. But if you start getting sixes, well, you start getting the things that you want, and like. Dice rolling games are good party games because anyone can start playing them and either win or like at least do something. Trivial Pursuit, you can't. Trivial Pursuit was poo. I didn't like that game at all because I don't know much about trivia, and in a Trivial Pursuit game that I was playing, I had to find other win conditions that to make it interesting for me, which was not interesting for anyone else, and that is my idea of It's you can't do much with it. Once you're not winning it, like what else are you playing that game for? I guess in Trivial Pursuit you can learn stuff, but you're not really. I don't think you're playing Trivial Pursuit to learn stuff. Not with your mates anyway. Other games like Settlers of Catan, for example, I love Settlers. It is my favourite board game of all time, and I, for some reason, was just naturally very good at it. For some reason, I just knew. I guess you roll 2 dice to get resources, so your results are between and inclusive of 2 and 12. So I put all my resources as best as I could on 6s and 8s because they had the highest yield, and then you go 5s and 9s and so on and so forth. I made sure I had a really good spread of resources. I made sure I was able to be strong in the early game, transition in the mid game to the end game. Like it was just all really natural for me. There have been games where I've played it and you just get blown out of the water at the start of the game, and you can find something else interesting to do in that game, even if you're losing at the start. You can go, bugger it, I'm not going to win, but I'm gonna build the longest damn road I can. Or you can do something. You can give yourself a condition that makes the game fun, or you can still achieve it in the game, even if it's not the win condition the game says on the back of the box. It's something you can still do, and games like Qmwu don't have that. Monopoly doesn't really have that. Monopoly is you either get lots of properties at the start and then you somehow cannibalize each other and someone wins at the end, or you're the guy being cannibalized. But there's really, I don't find Monopoly very fun at all. And it's also very any game that's got player interaction where you can give resources to the other person, and if you like them more or like them less, that depends on how much you charge for stuff. But that's always a dangerous game to play, because you don't want to sit there. And I've played plenty of games with couples, for example, and they look like they're favouring each other. And I'm going to go back to Settlers here. The Cardiff Corgis, if the manager of the Cardiff Corgis watches this, he may even know this, because he used to play games with me. In Settlers, there have been times where my wife and I see my wife as the second best player of Settlers of Catan out of our gaming group. If I wasn't playing, she'd stomp everyone. She just got it as well. And unfortunately for her, when I play, I stomp her. But she gets it. And there have been times where I've played a 4-player match or a 5 or a 6-player match, and we will do trades with each other because it suits our individual plans. And a 4-player game where you've got 4 individuals all trying to win, to get to the top of the heap, if 2 players trade amongst each other and help each other out, then those 2 players are first and second, and the other 2 players are playing with third and fourth. And when you're playing with other people and they don't get that idea, they're trying to what the third and fourth players are doing, or the losers for this discussion, what the losers are doing is they're trying to deny the other 3 players resources. The winners of Settlers of Catan realise that to give themselves the best shot of winning the game, they've got to help someone else out to help themselves out. No one's going to give you a road or give you a settlement or give you a city without getting something in return. So what you're doing is you're backing yourself. You're saying, I'm going to trade with this person. We're going to get ahead. We start on 2 victory points, first to 10 wins. If we get to 4 or 5 really quickly and we can generate more resources than the third and fourth player, then it's a 50-50 race. It's just me and them, like me and the other guy, or in this case, my wife. So 50-50 chance of winning the match versus trying to deny everyone else resources. And then if that somehow works, if you can deny 3 players resources without hamstringing yourself, you've got a 1 in 4 chance of winning. Why wouldn't you give yourself a 1 in 2 chance of winning by helping the second person out and then just going together and just racing at the end? And so that's the way Settlers went for us. Was that you're trying to get on top of the heap, you use someone else to get on top of the heap, and then you just try and back yourself to beat that person. And the point of this story, if we go back to the point of the story, I don't remember what the point of the story was. Except that my wife is really good at Settlers and I'm slightly better, which is true. It's true. Gears was a good game. I miss playing those games. I really do miss playing the board games, and that's why looking at the Hobbit strategy battle game makes me think of those other those nostalgic feelings as well. I'm thinking to myself, geez, I wish I was playing games again, and I'm happy that I'm feeling those thoughts now, because I was in such a dark place for a while that I couldn't see positives in anything, and all of a sudden now that there's a bit less pressure and I'm feeling a bit more relaxed, I'm starting to think the happy thoughts again, and I just have to get into a place where I can play those games again. The point of the Settler story, I think, was that there are some games you play where you see couples helping each other out, and it's always dangerous because there's jealousy. There's in a trading game, you don't want to see people favouring each other, but that's the optimal strategy. In Settlers, for example, that's why we did it in that one. There would be other games where denying resources would be the best way to get you in front, but usually with games, if you deny resources, you're really just keeping everyone, you're putting everyone else behind. Like you're basically stopping everyone from winning, but you're not improving your chances of winning. So you may as well. It's playing to win versus playing not to lose. That's the that's the cutoff there. We're at 50 minutes. I've rambled on enough about game theory and meta in all these loops that haven't really related to Quidditch Manager that often, except to say that I would like there to be more game theory in regards to Quidditch Manager, but it would change the game drastically. I don't know how to really implement it. Fouls, injuries, and suspensions will somewhat do it, because you'll have decision points where you've got to decide, do I field my top 7 this week? Do I do it next match? When do I play the top 7? I've got to have them all be as strong as possible, as fit as possible for the World Cup as well. So in season 33, you'll probably see, like, when this becomes a thing, maybe let's go season 37. So the first season after World Cup, when fouls, injuries, suspensions exist, you will probably see managers not play their best 7 players because they're resting them after the World Cup. They may be injured after the World Cup. They may be suspended after the World Cup. And that season might be the one where your club, just wins out of nowhere, because you're the club that is still able to field a competitive team. And then as we get closer and closer to the World Cups, that's when the good players start coming back and getting at the top of their game, the top of their form. I like the idea of that. At least that's dynamic. It changes. It's something we can talk about. It's something we can look at. We can look at it and go, like that. That is a reason for someone winning, or that is that is cause and effect. The manager chose to do this, and this was the result of it. It's very hard at the moment to do that with a lot of Quidditch Manager. Even like the fact that people keep coming onto the forums and asking what does strategy do, and we can't really answer it. The fact that that's a thing, that we can't answer the strategy question, just goes to show me that there needs to be a way to redo strategy so that it is 1, explainable, 2, understandable, or 1, understandable, 2, explainable, and 3, you can see the cause and effect. You can see that by doing one thing, something else happens, and you can plan around it. That would be really good. That'd be a change I'd like to see. We're going to cut it there. The bingo sheet is done. Thank you very much for watching this episode of the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update. It is match day 11, so almost halfway through the season. Next week we're gonna have a look at the season results, the season ladder, and everyone would have played each other twice. And if Honor League is as close then as it is now, it's going to be very exciting for the end of the season. Coming into the end of the season, if there is legitimately 4, 5, 6 teams that are within 1 or 2 wins of each other, and they've got a week and a half to go, that is unprecedented. That has never happened in Honor League, so I hope that we get to that position next week. So thanks for watching this episode of the Quidditch Manager Weekly Update, and until next time, hooroo!